She looked me straight in the eyes and said the words that cut deeper than a knife. "You can't even buy me a dress, Aiden. We don't belong together." That was it. No goodbye, no second glance, just silence. And the sound of her heels walking away from my life. It's been years, but that moment, it still echoes. I wasn't angry at her. I was angry at myself for believing that love could survive hunger, dreams, and poverty at the same time. My name's Aiden Cole, and that day, something inside me broke. I wasn't just a man who lost his girlfriend. I was a man who lost his worth. If you're enjoying the story so far, don't forget to like the video and subscribe to the channel, because this is just the beginning. I remember standing outside that boutique, the one where she'd tried on that red dress. The price tag was more than my rent. I had smiled and said, "Maybe next month." But she didn't smile back. She just looked at me like I was the reason she couldn't shine. That night, I walked home in the rain. I didn't have an umbrella, but honestly, I didn't need one. No storm outside could match the one inside me. I spent the next few days in silence. No calls, no messages, just the memory of her perfume fading from my shirt. Every corner of my small apartment reminded me of her laughter, now replaced by the echo of my failure. But somewhere between those sleepless nights and empty mornings, I realized something. She didn't just leave me for a dress. She left me because I was still becoming the man she wanted, and I wasn't there yet. So I made myself a promise that night. One day, I'll buy that same dress. Not for her, but as a reminder that I became everything she thought I never could. And when that day comes, she'll see me again, but she won't recognize the man I've become. For weeks, I didn't talk to anyone. My phone stayed silent. No messages, no calls, not even a spam notification. It's strange how the world doesn't stop when your heart does. I'd wake up, stare at the same cracked ceiling, and ask myself the same question. Was I really not enough? That question haunted me. It followed me to work, to my empty dinner table, to every quiet night when I stared at the city lights and wondered where she was. My name is Aiden Cole, and I used to believe love could fix everything. Now, I just believe in silence. If you're feeling this story so far, don't forget to like the video and subscribe to the channel. It really helps more stories like this reach you. There was one night I'll never forget. I was sitting outside a closed cafe, drenched in rain, holding a single $20 note in my hand. That's all I had left after paying rent. And in that moment, something changed inside me. I realized I could either keep waiting for someone to save me, or I could become the man who never needed saving. I quit my part-time job the next day. My friends called me crazy, maybe I was, but I wanted to start something of my own, even if it killed me trying. The first idea failed. The second one too. By the third, I had nothing left but stubbornness. I started working in my tiny apartment, a second-hand laptop, sleepless nights, and instant noodles as my business partner. Every time I wanted to give up, her voice would come back to me. "You can't even buy me a dress." Those words stopped hurting after a while. They started pushing, day by day, I learned. I fell, I stood up again, and after months of rejections, something finally clicked. A small deal. A single client who believed in my work. It wasn't much, but it was mine. That night I didn't cry. I didn't celebrate either. I just looked in the mirror and said, Aiden Cole died the day she left. What's left now is someone else. And that was the night Aiden Cole became Aiden Cross, the name the world would soon know. Success doesn't come with fireworks. It comes with silence. The kind that fills your room at 3 a.m. when everyone else is sleeping, and you're still chasing a dream that no one believes in. That's what my life became. Work, failure, repeat. The days blurred into each other. I'd wake up to the sound of my alarm, eat the same cold breakfast, and dive back into my laptop like it was the only thing keeping me alive. In a way, it was. I wasn't building a business back then. I was building revenge, one email at a time. Every time I closed my eyes, I saw her, Sarah, the girl who told me I couldn't afford her dreams. But instead of hating her, I used her voice as my fuel. Every no I got from a client, every door slammed in my face, it echoed back to me as her laughter from that boutique. It hurt, but pain, when you learn to aim it right, becomes power. Weeks turned into months. I learned design, marketing, finance, everything YouTube tutorials could teach me. I didn't have mentors. I didn't have investors. I just had anger that refused to die quietly. One afternoon, when I was about to give up again, an email popped up. We're interested in your proposal. Can we talk? It was a small local brand looking for a social campaign. I almost thought it was spam until they wired the advance. That first project changed everything. It wasn't the money. It was the proof that I could. After that, more small clients started coming in. I was working 16-hour days, living on caffeine and adrenaline. My body ached, but my spirit was finally awake. Within a year, my small freelance hustle had turned into something real. I rented a co-working space, hired 2 interns, and for the first time in my life, had business cards that said, Aidan Cross, founder and creative director. The first time I saw my name printed like that, I didn't smile, I just whispered, she'll never know this version of me, and maybe that was the point. By the end of that year, we landed our first corporate client, a deal big enough to pay off all my debts and still leave something behind. That night, I went to the same street where Sarah once left me. The boutique was still there, brighter, louder, busier. I looked through the window and saw another couple laughing, holding hands, picking dresses. I smiled. Not because I missed her, but because I finally didn't. The boy who couldn't buy a dress was gone, and the man who replaced him was just getting started. 3 years later, Aidan Cross wasn't just a name, it was a brand. The boy who once counted coins now signed contracts worth millions. The same hands that once trembled while paying rent now shook hands with CEOs. But success didn't change me. It revealed what pain had built. People started calling me the ghost founder because no one really knew where I came from. No interviews, no origin story, no past. Just a man who appeared out of nowhere and started winning. And I liked it that way. I didn't want anyone to know that Aidan Cross was once Aidan Cole, the boy who couldn't buy a dress. That version of me had to die for this one to live. There were nights I'd sit in my office, city lights flickering through the glass, thinking about her. Not with anger anymore, just curiosity. Did she ever think about me? Did she ever wonder what happened to the boy she left behind? Sometimes I'd scroll through social media, not to find her, but to make sure she'd never find me. My face was everywhere. Interviews, conferences, magazine covers. But to her, I was just another rich stranger. And maybe that was the sweetest kind of revenge, invisibility in plain sight. My company had just landed a major government contract, our biggest win yet. We threw a party, a quiet one, just for the team. Everyone was laughing, drinking, celebrating, and I stood by the window, looking down at the city that once ignored me. My assistant walked over, smiling. Sir, another invitation for you. A business gala next month. Big names, sponsors, influencers, top brands. I took the envelope and barely looked at it until I saw the signature at the bottom. Sarah Matthews. For a moment, time froze. The ink on that name might as well have been fire. She was hosting a charity gala. Women in business, it said. Her company was one of our competitors now. Funny how the world spins, I smiled. Tell them I'll be there, I said. My assistant raised a brow. You know her? Once upon a time, I replied, but she doesn't know me. When she left, I stared at that invitation for a long time. I didn't feel anger. I didn't feel love. I just felt ready. The man she broke didn't exist anymore. The man she was about to meet was the man she'd never forget. The invitation sat on my desk for days. White envelope, gold trim, bold letters embossed at the top. Sarah Matthews, Women in Business Gala. Every time I looked at it, memories tried to crawl back. The boutique, the rain, her voice saying, "You can't even buy me a dress." But I didn't flinch anymore. Those words didn't sting. They reminded me how far I'd come. When I finally opened the envelope, a faint perfume lingered inside. The same scent she used to wear. For a second, it took me back to that rainy night years ago. Then I smiled. She was still wearing the past. I had outgrown it. The date of the gala was set for next Saturday. It wasn't just another business event. It was the kind of gathering where deals were made with champagne and smiles. I knew exactly what she wanted. Our company's name on her side. A contract. A partnership. Maybe validation. But what she didn't know was that the man signing that deal used to love her. That week, my office felt different. Colder. Sharper. More alive. My assistant Clara noticed. "You've been quieter than usual, sir," she said one evening. "Big meeting coming up," I replied with a half smile. "Personal or professional?" "Both." She didn't ask again. She didn't need to. On Friday night, I stood in front of the mirror in my penthouse, adjusting my suit, fixing my cufflinks. I hadn't worn a tie in years, but tonight, I wanted to look like the kind of man the world bowed to, a black tuxedo. Silver watch, power stitched into every detail. For years I imagined this moment, what I'd say if I ever saw her again. Now that it was here, I realized I didn't need to say anything. The silence would speak for me. Before leaving, I looked at the invitation one last time and whispered, "You left me for a dress. Tonight, I'll wear the success you couldn't stand beside." When my car pulled up outside the venue, the red carpet shimmered under the city lights. Photographers flashed their cameras as I stepped out, escorted by security and my team. The host announced my name. "Ladies and gentlemen, please welcome Mr. Aidan Cross, founder of Cross Media Group." Gasps, whispers, admiration. I could feel eyes turning, the crowd recognizing a name they'd only read about. And then, across the room, I saw her, Sarah, beautiful, elegant, and completely unaware that the man she'd once destroyed was walking straight toward her. Her laughter froze mid-sentence when our eyes met. She blinked, once, twice, as if her memory was trying to catch up with her reality. I smiled, not out of love, not out of hate, but because after all these years, the tables had finally turned. The hall glittered with gold chandeliers and expensive laughter. Waiters floated through the crowd with champagne glasses that sparkled under soft lights, and a string quartet played something elegant in the corner. It was the kind of place where appearances were currency, and tonight, I was wealth itself. I walked in with quiet confidence. Every step measured, every glance calculated. People smiled, hands extended, names exchanged. But my eyes, they were searching for one, and there she was. Sarah Matthews. The woman who once left me standing in the rain was now surrounded by people trying to please her. She looked radiant, yes, but there was something in her smile that felt practiced, like someone who had everything except peace. Our eyes met across the room. She froze, just for a heartbeat, then smiled again, the same polished public smile she gave to everyone else. She didn't recognize me. Not yet. Her assistant walked up and whispered something to her. Sarah nodded, but her eyes stayed on me as I moved through the crowd. "Who's that?" I heard someone ask behind me. "That's Aidan Cross, the media tycoon. Built his empire from nothing." "From nothing?" Another voice laughed softly. "Then he must be something special. If only they knew how right they were." I walked up to the bar, took a glass of whiskey, and turned around just in time to see her walking toward me. Her walk hadn't changed, confident, calculated, like she owned every step she took. She stopped a few feet away, holding her champagne like a weapon disguised as grace. "Sarah, Mr. Cross, right?" "Aidan," smiling faintly. "That's what they call me." "Sarah, I've heard a lot about your company. I must say, I didn't expect you to look this young." "Aidan, success doesn't ask for age, just scars." She laughed, a nervous, practiced laugh. "Sarah, I like that. Maybe you could tell me more about your journey sometime." Aidan, "Oh, I think you'd find it familiar." Her smile faltered. Not because she understood the words, but because she felt the weight behind them. For a while, we just stood there, two strangers pretending they didn't share a past. Then the host called everyone's attention to the stage for a toast. Sarah walked up, elegant and proud. "Tonight," she said, "we celebrate strong women, successful ventures, and new beginnings." I raised my glass. How poetic. When the applause faded, she came down and joined me again. "Sarah, will you stay after the party? I'd love to discuss business opportunities." Aidan, "Maybe, but I prefer talking about history before the future." She looked confused but intrigued. "Sarah, history?" Aidan leans closer, voice calm. "Yes, some dresses are expensive, but some lessons cost more." Her fingers tightened around her glass. And for the first time that night, the woman who'd once felt untouchable looked afraid. I smiled politely, placed my glass on the counter, and said softly, "Enjoy your party, Miss Matthews. It's going to be a night to remember." And as I walked away, she turned slowly, watching me disappear into the crowd. A familiar ghost, wearing a stranger's face. The party was still glowing, but something in the air had shifted. Sarah's smile had cracked. She moved through the crowd like she was looking for answers that didn't exist. Meanwhile, I stood near the balcony, staring out at the city that once swallowed me whole. The music behind me softened, blending into whispers. People were talking about me. They always did. But tonight, one conversation would change everything. A voice came from behind. Sarah, you disappeared before I could thank you for coming. Aiden, you invited success. I couldn't say no. She forced a smile, but her eyes were searching, trying to place me somewhere in her memory. Sarah, you know, you remind me of someone I used to know. Aiden, smiling faintly. I get that a lot. There was silence, the kind that makes people nervous. She shifted uncomfortably. Sarah, well, I'm glad you came. I really admire men who build themselves from nothing. Aiden, nothing can be a powerful place to start, especially when someone leaves you there. The color drained from her face. The words hit harder than any name could. Sarah, what did you just say? I turned to face her fully for the first time that night. Aiden, you once told a man he couldn't buy you a dress, that he didn't belong in your world. Remember? Her hand trembled. Her eyes widened, searching my face. The beard, the suit, the calm. Then it hit her. Sarah. Aiden? I smiled. Aiden. Not anymore. The music faded. People nearby had started watching. I didn't raise my voice. I didn't have to. Aiden, you left me because I couldn't afford your dreams. Tonight, you're standing in a room built on mine. Whispers spread like wildfire. Sarah's friends turned, watching, whispering names and fragments of the truth. Sarah, please, not here. Aiden, why not? You didn't mind when you humiliated me in public. This seems fair. She tried to hold her ground, but her voice broke. Sarah, I was young, stupid. Aiden, no, you were honest. You wanted wealth, and now you're looking at it. Her eyes glistened with tears, mascara starting to smudge. The crowd pretended not to stare, but everyone was listening. Aiden, you know the irony, Sarah. I could buy you that dress now, 100 of them, but you couldn't pay the price of who I've become. She stepped closer, whispering, Sarah, please, Aiden. I'm sorry. Aiden, don't be. You made me. Every tear, every sleepless night. That was the investment. I looked around the room, every face watching, every whisper echoing like poetic justice. Then I leaned in and said softly, you once said we didn't belong together. You were right. We don't. Not anymore. I walked past her slowly, the sound of her quiet sobs following me across the marble floor. The applause that started wasn't loud, just a few hands clapping somewhere in the back. But it was enough to tell her. The whole world had just watched her lose what money could never buy again. Respect. The night ended with silence. No music, no laughter. Just the sound of whispers and heels clicking on marble floors as people left the hall, pretending not to have seen what happened. I stood near the exit, hands in my pockets, watching the crowd thin out. Sarah sat alone by the corner table, mascara streaked, face pale. The same woman who once made me feel small now looked smaller than ever. Her friends didn't stay. No one does when the spotlight turns into a mirror. For a second, I almost felt sorry for her. Almost. I walked out of the hall and into the cold night. The city lights shimmered on the wet pavement. The same kind of rain that once soaked a younger version of me. Funny how life circles back. My driver opened the car door, but I waved him off. I'll walk, I said. I needed to feel the night, the quiet, the distance, the closure. As I walked down the street, flashes from earlier replayed in my head. Her shock, her trembling voice, the way the crowd turned. But instead of satisfaction, all I felt was emptiness. Revenge is supposed to taste sweet, but mine felt like cold ash. All those years I thought about this moment, what I'd say, how I'd make her regret everything. And now that it happened, it didn't heal anything. It just ended it. At a red light, I looked up at a billboard, my company's logo glowing against the night sky. The letters read, Cross Media Group. A name that no longer carried pain, only purpose. Maybe that was the real revenge. Not her tears, not her shame, but the fact that I didn't need her apology to move on. My phone buzzed. A message. Unknown number. I'm sorry, Aiden. Truly. You didn't deserve what I did. I stared at it for a moment, then locked the screen without replying. Some messages don't need answers. I walked past the same boutique where it all started. The one with the red dress in the window. It was still there. Different design. Same arrogance. I smiled. Inside, a young couple was laughing. The girl trying on a dress while the guy checked the price tag nervously. I saw myself in him. Broke, scared, in love. And I wanted to tell him, don't let her price decide your worth. But some lessons, people have to learn the hard way. The rain started falling again, slow and steady. I looked up, let it wash over my face. The storm that once broke me now felt like freedom. I wasn't that man anymore. And she'd have to live knowing what she lost. By morning, the city knew everything. It started with a single post. A blurry photo from the gala. Aiden Cross facing Sarah Matthews. Then came the captions. The confrontation no one expected. A billionaire meets his past. Every lie has a price. By noon, it was everywhere. Headlines, gossip columns, podcasts dissecting every second of the night. The same people who once ignored my story were now obsessed with it. The irony was almost poetic. I didn't give interviews. I didn't need to. The truth had already spoken for me. At the office, my team watched me carefully, half proud, half unsure how to act. Clara, my assistant, finally asked the question everyone wanted to. Clara, sir, was it true? What they're saying online? Aiden, smiling faintly. Some stories don't need corrections, Clara. They need endings. She nodded quietly. And that was it. Outside, the world was choosing sides. Some called me a hero. Others said I'd humiliated a woman in public. But for the first time in years, I didn't care what the world thought. I went back to doing what I did best, building, not breaking. Sarah, on the other hand, disappeared from the spotlight. Her company's shares dropped. Her friends unfollowed. Her name became a whisper people said with sympathy or judgment. Nothing more. I didn't celebrate that, because I knew pain when I saw it. I'd lived it once. One evening, I was driving across the city when my car stopped at the same intersection where, years ago, I'd watched her leave in another man's car. That night had broken me. But now, standing in the same place, I realized something important. The city hadn't changed. I had. I stepped out of the car and looked around. Tall buildings, glowing signs, the heartbeat of ambition everywhere. This city had watched me lose, rise and return. And now it was quiet, as if it understood. A small street vendor called out to me. "Boss!" "Coffee," I smiled and nodded. He handed me a cup, steaming in the cold air. "You look familiar," he said, squinting. "Maybe," I replied. "Or maybe you've just seen someone who never gave up." He laughed and waved as I walked away. Simple people, honest eyes. They reminded me who I really was beneath all the suits and success. The rain began again, soft, rhythmic, like the city whispering closure. I thought of Sarah. Maybe she was somewhere watching the same sky, realizing that the world never stays in one place. We both had our lessons. Hers was regret, mine was rebirth. I took a sip of my coffee, smiled at the lights, and whispered to the wind. The city saw me fall once. Now it's watching me rise. And as I walked away, the night swallowed the noise, leaving only peace behind. It was past midnight when I found myself on the rooftop of the same hotel where the gala had been held. The city below was still awake, lights flickering, horns echoing, life moving on like it always does. Maybe that's what I had finally learned. The world doesn't stop for heartbreak, or success, or revenge. I stood at the edge, feeling the cold wind against my face. From up here, everything looked small. The people, the noise, the pain. Even her. For years I had imagined this view as the finish line, that once I made her regret leaving me, once I showed the world who I'd become, I would feel complete. But standing there I realized something. Closure isn't revenge. Closure is peace. My phone buzzed. A notification from a news headline. Sarah Matthews resigns from her company amid controversy. I didn't click it. I didn't need to. Some stories don't need endings written in headlines. They end quietly, in the hearts of the people who lived them. I looked down at the street below, the same one where I once walked broken, promising myself that I'd return stronger. And here I was. I smiled, not out of pride, but gratitude. Gratitude for the pain that built me, for the loss that taught me, and for the silence that healed me. Behind me, the rooftop door creaked open. It was my friend and partner, Babar, the only one who knew the full story. He walked over and handed me a cup of coffee. "Babar, you finally did it. Aiden, Did what? Baba. Proved her wrong. Aiden shakes his head. No. Proved myself right. We stood there for a while, watching the city breathe. The sound of wind, the distant hum of traffic. It all felt peaceful, almost poetic. Baba. So what now? Aiden. Now I start over. But this time, not to prove a point, just to live. He nodded and left quietly, leaving me alone with the skyline. I pulled out my phone, opened the camera, and snapped a photo of the city lights. Caption: "The world saw me fall. Tonight it saw me rise." I posted it, locked my phone, took a deep breath. Somewhere out there, she might see it. And maybe she'll finally understand that the boy she left behind didn't just grow up. He rose above. As I walked away from the edge, the city wind whispered like an old friend, and I smiled softly. Revenge ended the story, but peace gave it meaning. And with that, I walked back into the night, not as the man she once left, but as the man she could never have again. The end.